And although I had my doubts in the end, yes, I decided to make this video. Why? Well, because there is more and more information that lets you know, hey, look, one of the reasons a person distances themselves is not because they don't feel anything, not because they don't like you. It's the opposite. It's that they are in the stage just before falling in love. And this happens more in men than in women at a distance, but also in women with avoidant attachment, or women who have had bad experiences and have some conflict in opening up. That is to say, it can happen in women, but it is mostly reported, and it is like this. It happens more in men who sometimes distance themselves before falling in love. And of course, even though the person giving you the information, because I have shared it on the channel and it's shared on many channels, warns you that be careful, it might not be your case. It might simply be that this person is not interested, or is interested in someone else, or has seen something they don't like. But even so, it's evident that having this information, which obviously you prefer much more than considering one of the other hypotheses, in the end, even if they tell you that in most cases it won't be, you tend to stick with it, right? And this is exactly why I say, well, since you have the information, it's important that you have it clearly so that you can truly identify. For this reason, I am going to delve as deeply as possible so that don't cling to this idea if, with all the information I'm going to provide you today to learn to identify whether it's your case or not, you can outright dismiss it or on the contrary say, look, there are quite plausible chances that it might be. I also want to warn you. That is to say, no matter how much we are going to analyze key points here that will give you many clues about whether this might be your case, even if all the points coincide, I want to be completely honest with you. It might not be the case. This is more to fully rule out that you say, okay, this is not my situation. I'm not going to deceive myself. I'm not going to hold on to false hopes. Because if these points are not met, you are not in this scenario. This person hasn't distanced themselves because they feel too much or have become vulnerable, but rather the opposite. Okay? So, this is a bit like that. So you don't cling to that thing because in the end, it's like saying, well, I don't know. The leaflet in medications, right? Even if it says it's rare, once you've read it, you know it's there. And sometimes you become a hypochondriac, right? Well, if you have that information to believe, okay, I think this person has simply lost interest. But it could be that they are falling in love in the end. Having that information is there in the background. So let's delve deeper. What should we pay attention to? Or rather, what happens when that's the case? That the person distances themselves? But deep down, it's not because they don't care about you, but because they are in that stage right before saying, okay, I'm going to fall in love. The first key I want to talk to you about and make you see is that it's a short process. That is to say, when I might read a comment, receive a direct message on Instagram, or hear about a case like Amanda's. 3 months ago, this person distanced themselves, and I think it might be because they felt too much. We are not dealing with this case. This is not a process. It's not like when I tell you that someone is not valuing you, is underestimating you, and you remain in a situation of disdain for a long time. And then, when you distance yourself, and when you finally start to give yourself your place and work on your self-love, and it begins to radiate and you change your energy. And this person, at a distance, gradually reflects. That is a long process. Here we can indeed be looking at months. Or even a person who leaves a relationship, believing at that moment that they will be happier without you, and believing that they no longer feel anything. After months, they might change their mind. But here, the person who distances themselves because they feel overwhelmed by their emotions, because they are in that step before falling in love, that person does not. No, it doesn't take months. This is not a process. This is a short switch, sometimes even hours. Sometimes that's why sometimes there are women who don't even realize that the man they are with has experienced this. And also, I repeat, let's not limit this to men, because I know of cases involving women. The difference might be that women hide it more. That is, she is more aware that even though she feels something is different inside her, that something is strange, that she doesn't quite know what's happening, she is more cautious. She has more empathy and manages to say, well, until I have internally dealt with this, I won't communicate it, right? And she hides it. She might be colder, but she hides it. Men are less inclined to do this. They are more about acting according to what their body tells them, right? Without thinking. I mean, a man doesn't stop so much to analyze, to see if yesterday he was fine, if yesterday he felt good. It's not possible that today my emotions have changed. It has to be something of mine, personal. I will manage it first before speaking. No. The man was usually fine and suddenly he's acting strange. And when he's acting strange, he acts according to what his body tells him more. They tend to be more impulsive. So that's why there are more women who participate and notice that moment. The problem is that sometimes as she notices it, the woman says, hey, what's wrong with you? What's happening to you? How are you? And at the moment when it's better not to press, she presses, worsening the situation. Sometimes temporarily, sometimes leading it to completely derail. Here, be careful. It's always good to respect that turning point. While in women sometimes, it goes unnoticed. I have received cases of women, so you can see that it also happens. Suddenly I felt a flow and thought, oh my, I'm going to sleep on it. I took my time, weighed it well one night, thought about it one morning, and suddenly said, but no way. And from there it all went smoothly. And there are also cases of men where you might think it hasn't happened to them, but they have experienced it. Have they sometimes had that day or those hours of saying, is this really what I want? Is this the person? Do I want to move forward? Wouldn't I rather, and they toy with the idea that this is the turning point, wouldn't I rather leave this here? Because somehow this also arises from feeling their freedom threatened. Precisely. Because they know they are about to want to commit, that they are about to become so involved that it's like, if I wanted to let you go, it would hurt me. So I am aware that in the end, my freedom will be curtailed because you matter so much to me that from now on, I will start thinking for two, right? Hey, I can no longer make unilateral decisions about my life because yours matters a lot to me, right? So that feeling that you are going to take that step to lose freedom, not because the person imposes anything on you, mind you. It's not that you are imposing, hey, from now on you can't go. No. It's all very internal and also very subconscious. Men often. And that's part of the freedom, of the problem. We are more inclined to want to recognize what is happening to us, and they don't like trying to recognize it as much. So all that subconscious stuff simply sometimes leads them to merely experience overwhelm. And what happens when we feel overwhelmed? Well, overwhelm is very dangerous because it has the ability to cloud the feeling, not to remove it. Not to eliminate it, that thing of Amanda, but yes, if he loved me yesterday, why not today? He hasn't stopped loving you, but he has stopped being able to connect with that emotion because let's say that overwhelm is like a barrier, S in the middle. And here we go to the next clues that I need to understand. First, the first one, this is quick. Mo, meaning in a day, a few days, a week at most, the person comes back on their own without you doing anything. In fact, the less you do, and if you do nothing, the shorter this will last. And if you do too much, as I said, indeed this can go off track. But if you are saying this person can do it after 2 months, we are not dealing with this case. It's not. We might be dealing with a case of a longer process, okay? But it's not the scenario of someone distancing themselves at the moment of pulling away because they felt they cared too much and were opening up. No. Unless you tell me that at that moment you freaked out, did a bunch of things, and brought the situation to a point of stress and depression where the person finally withdrew completely. But if not, if you haven't been on top of them, that wasn't the case. Next clue I need to understand, the contrast. As I just explained to you, the overwhelm clouds, the feeling that was there. That is to say, this is not something progressive. It's more like a flux. So the usual thing here, we usually hold on to, well, this person. It's not that I feel they don't care about me anymore. It's that I feel they care less about me. We are not in this case. Or the last 3 weeks. Before this person distanced themselves, we were already a bit worse. They started writing to me less. No, because this is not Wade. I want you to understand that this is like everything is going very well. In fact, an important clue would be the opposite of how well everything was going. Amanda, I don't understand. It's that everything was going very well, and suddenly, and here comes the contrast. That is to say, the better it was before the moment and the greater the contrast. These are indeed strong indications that we might be in this situation. That's why I'm telling you, what will lead the person to reach that point is precisely that they are just a step away from taking the step of surrendering, of falling in love, which leads to the person reaching that point. Well, obviously being well, having shared very intimate moments, having opened up a bit more, feeling that we are in a very good moment, that you are probably also in love or in that prior step. And you say that I already noticed that the person matters to me more. Everything is flowing. Everything is going well. And suddenly, bam. That contrast that makes us not understand what's happening and that these kinds of questions arise. Like the ones you bring up about Amanda, I don't understand it. It's just that if yesterday or 2 days ago we saw each other and they told me things they had never said before and were with me like never before. And now suddenly, it's like they don't want to know about me. It's like I run into a wall or they've disappeared or not, or they just limit themselves to answering me. But I feel that they're cold. How can that be? They want a person to go from being here to being here. No, they're still here. What happens is that they don't see it. The stress is like a barrier that temporarily prevents. And as we've seen before, fortunately, it's a short temporality, which can feel super distressing to you, but it's short. Temporarily, it's like a wall between their feelings and their being that doesn't allow them to connect. It doesn't allow them to connect. So, as you see the contrast, and being well are signals, because sometimes we cling to the opposite. We mistakenly console ourselves thinking, well, I noticed that even though it's different, this girl is different, there's something there. Because yes, it's inconsistent. These patterns are not of inconsistency. They are not about being cold today, but very well tomorrow, because I'm overthinking that I'm falling in love. No. Because what happens to the person is not manipulation. The person doesn't do it intentionally. It's a process that occurs. It overwhelms you, and you don't see it coming, and you feel bad too. That's why you don't connect with what you feel, right? And that's why it leads you to act differently. But you're not going to be overthinking. Now I feel. No, I don't feel. Now I like this. I don't like this. Inconsistency always speaks of an indecisive person who is calibrating but doesn't have anything clear. But not of being emotionally overwhelmed or of someone who is manipulating us or someone who lacks interest. So, in these cases, consoling ourselves by believing that the person is cold, but not entirely, is a mistake. Because inconsistency is not good. The greater the contrast and clarity in the contrast, we truly notice that we don't understand what has happened. That yesterday they were one person and now we find ourselves with another. That yesterday everything was going very well and now suddenly the person seems like they don't want to, right? He doesn't understand. A greater contrast that shocks you more and causes you more harm is a clearer sign that we might indeed be facing this situation. Other things we need to pay attention to. Not just whether there is consistency after the cooling off, nor if there was little before, but in general, how it has been unfolding. I repeat, this is only going to happen in relationships that are going well, relationships where we don't sense that strange things are happening. That is, we realize, especially nowadays with the tattletales that are social networks, if there are shady things. That is, if that person is somehow spreading their interest a lot, or if they are taking us more seriously. And we realize that a person is taking us more seriously before saying anything, before formalizing anything. I mean, you can tell. So all of that, the better the relationship with this person was, the fewer alarms there were about third-party games, unfinished stories that they aren't spending all day, sending hearts, nor are they talking to you about that ex with whom they broke up, but it turns out the dog, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You understand me? Let's do it differently. I'm going to explain the typical scenario to you. And I'm going to add one more key point, which isn't always the case, but also this is more likely to happen with someone who hasn't fallen in love before, who is more emotionally immature, okay? But there are also people for whom this happens every time they fall in love. There are others for whom it doesn't. So let's understand the situation. The situation is, do I meet someone? Things are going well, really. We are two people who understand each other. Things are progressing without any issues. This person makes me feel good. So far, I'm not walking around with previous doubts, insecurities, fears, or competitions. No, it's a relationship that's going well. I like how it flows. We are comfortable, we are good. It seems like it looks like we are already investing. And at a given moment, this person undergoes a radical change that I don't understand. That is the most likely scenario. And what do I have to do there? Nothing. Because I repeat, because if I do nothing in a very short time, as I said at the beginning, this is a short process. The person will come to me on their own, will apologize, and from there, what will happen? This is also something we can look at to rule out that we are not dealing with someone who might be manipulating us, right? And has taken a pause to see how we react, right? A manipulative person who takes a pause will come back as if nothing happened. If they offer you an apology, which in most cases they won't, right? It will be more like the bare minimum. I tell you the bare minimum, trying to sweep the dirt under the rug. And I will come back as if nothing happened. The person who has had that flow, because they were about to fall in love, will not come back as if nothing happened. They will probably apologize for being absent. And from there you will notice, moreover, that they are more committed. Why? Because indeed it was the pause before I truly want this. Even if it's unconscious, these matters. I truly want to fall in love. Is this the girl or woman or the man for whom I want to give up my sense of freedom and everything? I want to commit. I want to open up. From now on, I want what happens to this person to affect me. And if I decide yes, if in the end I get up and say yes, and I go to find her, I won't leave the same way again. I have already taken that step. That is to say, this person has already come and committed. Then you will notice that after that pause, the person suddenly says, I don't understand. We were doing very well, very well, very well. There was a pause, and suddenly, poof, they come back in love. Well, because there was that impasse. But if not, if they come back weaker, or come back less involved, or come back the same, be careful. Because we could also be facing a strategic pause by a manipulative person who wants to see how you react. When they leave, how much does it destabilize you? So here we have to be careful. Also pay attention to this. Or if we are dealing with someone who looks for you after a month and a half, no, I distance myself, but they come back after a month and a half and come back weak, no. This person did not distance themselves because they were vulnerable and felt too much and now realized it. This person probably had more things going on, was involved in other stories, maybe still is in other stories. Right now, this isn't working for them. They remembered that you are there. So be careful, please. Really, let's not cling to false hopes. If we handle the information, let's handle it completely. Let's read the prospectus well. Let's not hold on to things that aren't real, nor get our hopes up or deceive ourselves truly. This is about truly wanting to be well, and for that, it's important not to deceive oneself. I believe that now it has become quite clear, although we have to pay attention, but make it very clear that in that case, don't do anything. Stay in your energy, okay? Stay strong, let this person come. And when they do, carefully analyze what you think you are facing, okay? Well, I hope this video is helpful to you, that you liked it. If that's the case, and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, of course, I invite you to do so, to hit the bell, because I would love for us to see each other again very soon. And until then, as always, I send you a big kiss.